Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the special edition Monday Bearded Brown Show. We are here live, and we're going to talk about some football today because it's happening. Chad looks
Brown.
very pissed off.
He's like, I have to be here on the Monday. Talk about the
Me?
preseason.
Oh, man.
Preseason, my favorite.
Especially game one. The first one's always the best one.
Yeah, this was. I guess it depends on which team you're watching. I'm sure Packers fans were like, "Yeah, preseason, this is great."
Well, I mean, you got to see Jordan Love. I'm sure that's what they wanted after.
That's what I mean. They got to see
Contract.
Jordan Love throw like 2 passes for 75 yards and a touchdown, and then sit down for the week. It's like, okay, that probably feels nice. I would have liked to have done that.
So that's what we're going to touch base with today. The preseason game. Is the Ayuk stories laid to rest, or is it not? Is there another rumor that
Maybe.
could possibly be coming? Some more stadium talk. Angel's beard.
It's growing, man.
Black there. Well, actually, Chad's is coming back pretty decent. Look, it's
I
coming.
was going to say mine's grown too.
Oh, man. What mug do you have today, Chad?
What's that?
What drink cup do you have today?
Oh, I've got some of that Liquid Death Mango Chainsaw. Mango Chainsaw Massacre.
That's the worst. I hate mango.
No, mango's fine. It's not my favorite.
Oh, man.
Melon, and the lime. Those are.
Yeah, lime all day.
The orange and lime, best.
I haven't had the orange yet.
Oh.
Orange is good. It's got a little subtleness of orange sickle in there.
So, what did you guys do this weekend? Anything fun?
I went to West Virginia for 4 days. Fayette, West Virginia. Did I say that right? My wife plans this for me, and I just follow. Man, it was fun. We just hiked, ate food, hiked again, ate more food. Tried to hike the third day, but we realized that we're new hikers. So let's take the last day nice and easy.
Burning
But, man,
calories.
there's tons of food out there. There's this little area. It's kind of like for those that are local here, like Tremont to us. But they have 3 great food places. First of all, Pies and Pints. You know what that is? It's pizza and beer. If you're a pizza and beer guy, you want to go there, or a woman, whatever you're into. Wood Iron Eatery, amazing breakfast burrito there, so good. And Secret Sandwich Society. I had a cheeseburger bacon with a jalapeno aioli sauce. It was
That's
so
not
good.
a secret.
This
No,
podcast is brought to you by visitwestvirginia.com.
Visit. Yes, I'm telling you, it was like my wife was like, "Let's go to West Virginia." I'm like, "What's in West Virginia?" Then I went there, and I'm like, I kind of want to come back here. We did Long Point Trail and Endless Rim Trail or something like that. It was beautiful views.
I'm only interested in
Beautiful.
endless onion rings.
Yes, that too. But beautiful nature. I became one with the earth. It was an amazing, low spending, low scale trip for me. It was fun. I did not want to come back, but I had kids, so I had to.
Chad, what trouble did you get into?
Not a lot. I mean, this was one of the most relaxing weekends I've had in a while. I didn't have a ton of stuff to do around the house. I watched a little bit of football, and it was the laziest Sunday. All I did was get a couple morning chores done and then just lay around and recap football and read a little bit. But yeah, it actually felt pretty good to not have a scheduled cookout or a event, birthday party. Nothing was happening for the first time in like the summer. So that was incredible for me.
I really do. Friday, went to a concert. Saturday was my birthday, as
Happy
you all know.
birthday.
Thank you, Angel, for throwing that one out there. Sunday was an eventful day. And then there's today. I'm going to another concert tomorrow, so we're doing the show today. And yeah, it was a eventful weekend, and it's going to be another eventful weekend next week. I'll actually be at the game Saturday. That should be fun. And yeah, that's it. After that, I'm not doing anything. I'm saving money and apparently moving to West Virginia.
Yeah, move to West Virginia, by the way. You guys want to sponsor our show so we can get another trip down there? That'd be great. West Virginia,
Yeah.
the whole state. Oh, I went kayaking for 2 hours too. That was an
Oh, that's
amazing.
great.
Yeah, 2 hours on the water. My wife, look, I got wounds. Look, check that out. It looks
Oh,
worse than what it is.
battle
My
wounds.
my wife decided to jump in the lake. It's like a man-made lake there, and I'm like, I'm cool. I'll stay on land. I don't like water that I can't see. You know what I
Yep.
mean? I'm afraid of what might come up after me. See that rhyme? And she was like, all right, I'm done.
Jameis on the mic. Jameis on the
Yes.
mic right now.
So she's like, hey, I'm done. And we had two guys with us, and they were like, we'll get her. I'm like, I'm a man. I'll get my wife, right? But I
Yes.
didn't realize what they were trying to say is the rocks are slippery.
Yeah.
Right. So I grabbed my wife. She pulled, because I'm strong. I'm a man. So I pulled her and I slipped in, man. I went in with my phone and everything. I was like, no, my phone. I was more worried about my phone. I ended up like sky hooking my phone onto the kayak. So that survived. But I ended up getting a scrape here, scrape on my elbow, scrape on my side.
It's funny how much strength doesn't help your balance
It does
at
not.
all when you're.
But I was not ready for it because afterwards she was like, "Oh yeah, the algae underneath the rock." I'm like, "Man, I didn't even think about that." And they were apologized. Like, it's my fault. I should have listened to you guys. I was just being a man and being stupid.
Like, don't worry, babe. Don't worry, babe. I've got it covered. I think.
It was fun. Yeah.
Elsewhere on YouTube joined us. Anthony Adams on Facebook joined us. Thank you guys. Let's get
Well,
into
you had the most
preseason.
adventurous weekend compared to all of us combined.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember half my weekend. That's not fun. But we're gonna jump right into the preseason banter, the shenanigans, the horrible preseason Cleveland Browns game that everybody thoroughly enjoyed. The biggest question, honestly, I want everybody to comment on this if you can. Do you guys even care about what happens in preseason, or do you even watch? That is the biggest question. And Chad, you go first. Go ahead, buddy.
So I did watch this one, and it reminded me why I typically do not watch the preseason, because I finished it and I was like, well, I didn't even gather something to talk about on the show this week. I'm like, I got literally so much less out of this game than I usually do in like a week of practice. But it doesn't always have to go that way. Like I said when we opened, if you're the Packers, you're probably maybe over positively like, wow, we got to see Jordan Love go out there for one series. He scored a touchdown immediately. Dontavian Wicks, our wide receiver 3 or 4, made an incredible catch. Like, you got something positive out of that. And then through the rest of the first half, you watched your backups, your second teamers, just shut the Browns down. So they probably feel pretty good and got something out of this. It was pretty disappointing performance. I would say there's maybe one or two things, and we'll get to them as the podcast goes on, but that you can kind of gather from this game. But for the most part, for anybody out there that didn't take the time to watch, this recap will cover it for you. You missed nothing beyond what we talk about. So
watching the kickoff, the Cleveland Browns do the kickoff, not Chicago Bears or anybody else. I didn't gain anything from it. I was kind of pissed off because Cade York kept kicking touchbacks still right into the end zone. And there was the one instance where he kicked it into the end zone and the dude almost ran it out and he's like stopped and kneeled the ball. Mm-hmm. I was like, dude, go, please run. Like,
yeah. It probably old habit. He probably caught it and just immediately took 2 steps and was like, oh yeah, new rule.
Right.
Kneel. Which is why, so that highlights, so that's Cade York, a professional kicker who we know has some issues with ball placement. Besides the fact that he's got a incredible leg, like talking about a guy with an incredible arm that throws a bunch of picks, like he just isn't accurate with the ball placement, which goes back to why I said, like, I thought it'd be pretty tough to have a defensive player make this kick, because if you put all your force into it, it could end up in the end zone. If you kick it out of bounds, it goes to the 40. If you kick it too short, this guy can get a running start on it and just drill past you. So it's kind of a highlight to how accurate a kicker actually has to be on the kickoff to get it to land within that like 0 to 5 yard, 1 to 5 yard range, where you want to hold them back, but you also don't want to overkick into the end zone. So that was not a shocker about Cade York. He just doesn't have the touch, man. He's like I'm trying to think of a quarterback that's like that, where he's just got an incredible like cannon of an arm, like Mitch Trubisky. Like he can really launch it, but where is it going to end up is the real question.
Yeah.
So,
Angel, you didn't get to watch the game because you were in the mountains of West Virginia, correct?
Yeah, I didn't get to. I did watch some highlights, lowlights, whatever you want to call it, and it looked interesting. Interesting game, especially the first drive for Green Bay. Kind of was like, I think I would have shut it off after that. I was like, I'm done. But
took
I
another
do
sip of my
normally,
beer
yeah,
after that.
I do normally like have it in the background as noise. I don't, especially after the first stringers play. I'm kind of like, eh. But it's good noise in the background type stuff for me. I don't really pay attention after the second, third quarter.
yeah, the first play was just a first play. Dontavian Wicks is a legitimate wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's a sophomore season. He had a terrific rookie season, and he looks to build on that. Jordan Love is obviously a starter who played through their whole season, continues with the same exact receivers and the same exact scheme. They have the advantage going into that. I think the only real disappointing part was it happened on Ronnie Hickman, who got in late into the season as a fill-in after we had all those safety injuries, and you don't expect for him to just let somebody like Wicks run right past him when there's not going to be safety coverage over the top. He is the safety playing in the slot, so tough lesson for him. But I wouldn't be too disappointed. Anything the Packers did seems irrelevant to me because that's just not our defense.
It was not
played
at
so
all.
few real defensive players. It was more for me. The disappointment more came on offense.
Yeah. Thank you, Chad, for checking that off. Did Cade York totally redeem himself in Cleveland after he kicked that 55-yarder? Because everybody, even the announcers, when they announced it, seemed, he kicked a 55-yarder. I'm like, all right,
I've seen it
didn't have
before.
Charlie Hewlett, which is your typical long snapper. He is back, obviously, because we got rid of that guy that we signed for the one preseason game.
That's actually kind of nice. So sorry for that guy that got cut. He's probably like the first call on our call list if something ever happens during the season, because now he's been in the building. At least he knows the coaches and how to report. They can keep in touch with him. But great news for friend of the show and elite beardo Charlie Hewlett that he got dropped so quickly, because it's like, okay, whatever was wrong with Charlie this week is minor, and they obviously expect him back this week.
He was the captain of the game. You guys see him out there at the beginning of the game? He called the coin toss.
No, I didn't.
Oh, he did? Wow.
Yeah, that was cool.
Did he
I was
lose?
like, that's the guy that was on the show.
He's on the show. Are you going to say his name next week? Scream his name.
Oh, yeah. There's a nickname for him.
Yeah.
I have to remember what that was. I'm going to have to go back to that show. And
is it Charlie Cool or
Charlie Cool? Yeah, I think it was Charlie Cool.
Yeah, Charlie Cool.
Oh, dude, I'm in the second deck, so I'm gonna scream, and it's gonna be quiet. It's a preseason game, so
yeah, you're probably gonna only two people there, so you and your wife and another couple. It'd be like a double date. You don't know these people. It'd be a double date.
So do you think Charlie? The dude's an awesome guy. We had him on the show like 3 weeks ago. Do you think that affected the kickers and the punters at all? Obviously, kicking field goals. We didn't
seem like it.
Him being on the show?
No, because I didn't.
He was thinking like, man, I gotta go back on that show, man. That show was dope.
No, whoever filled in for him, it seemed fine. I didn't see any punts or any field goal holds that seemed off or anything. But the reality of that position is you need somebody in there you can absolutely trust, and somebody coming in a preseason game and having a couple good snaps is okay, but they know Charlie can do it under any circumstance, pressure, and the big one is weather. They know when it's negative 11 degrees in that stadium, Charlie can still get all of his snaps perfect. So he's not in danger unless something major happens. So, but it never hurts to have somebody else on the backup. He gets hit in the head, gets a concussion, misses 2 weeks. At least the Browns have someone to call who they know has completed a couple snaps.
I did see one low snap punt on a punt, but it's going to happen. The guy's not here for camp. He's probably snapping in his backyard, just like Charlie says.
Yeah,
He
just
does.
trying to get on film.
Right. We all saw the quarterback play. We were all expecting a ton more passing with the choo-choo.
I thought that was a sound effect for a second.
That guy might get
Me
shot.
too. I was like,
That
that's
guy
a new
doesn't
one.
stop. I was like, come on, dude.
Right.
All aboard the quarterback train.
That was perfect timing.
Yes. Run them off.
That's what I thought you were doing. I thought you had some like train themed segment we were about to go in.
That's in my backyard.
Before we jump to the quarterback, Sam said they should kick back the kicker another 5 to 10 yards for the new kickoff, and he thought the safety number 39 Brady Breeze looked good. What do you guys think about Brady Breeze? You guys saw him, I didn't.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, so I don't
think
know
we have him
if-
in here.
I don't know how good he looked, but I do know he was I mean, I shouldn't say I don't know how good he looked. I don't know how impactful he was compared to like who he was playing against. But if there's such a thing as like a guy taking advantage of his opportunity, much like Ronnie Hickman did last year, where it's like he's a long shot to even make the team. He was an undrafted free agent. He's at the bottom of the roster. That was kind of Brady Breeze yesterday. He was all over the field. I think he led the team in tackles. He played a lot of the safety snaps. And I think he was mostly out there because they didn't play Delpit. They didn't play Juan Thornhill. They didn't play, or they played like a couple snaps with. Yeah, they played a couple snaps with our other veteran safety whose name escapes me right now. And Ronnie Hickman tweaked his back, pulled a muscle in his back on that very first play that he was chasing down Dontavian Wicks. So I think mostly Brady Breeze was in just because they needed someone to stay in and play safety. But to his credit, he made a couple stops at the line of scrimmage. He made a couple tackles. He popped a guy out of bounds without pulling a penalty. He got himself noticed to the point where I won't be shocked if he gets himself a lot more reps and playing time in the next game coming up in route to try to earn himself that practice squad spot.
Thanks, Sam, for derailing the quarterback train. We're going to get back to the quarterback.
Good looking, Sam.
No, I love that. Throw it in there. It was on the list here somewhere.
Yeah. Brady and Breeze is a quarterback, so just two names in a one. It's a quarterback.
And I literally said when I saw him, I'm like, I don't actually know that guy, that player. And then I was like, my buddy was like, well, it's going to be pretty easy to remember, don't you think? Brady Breeze.
He had two amazing tackles that I seen. I watched the entire game. He had two really good tackles. He was, like Sam said, all over the field. Oh, that's what you want to see in a safety. That's exactly what you want to see in a safety. Somebody that can get to the other side of the field.
Take advantage of your time, man.
He did it.
He didn't make any giant apparent mistakes. He made tackles when he needed to. He laid down a couple big hits. Yeah. So, I mean, again, I don't know. He was probably playing mostly, as far as most of the game, he was probably playing third, fourth, and fifth stringer kind of guys. But that's what he is, and he outplayed them. So, good on him.
He did a good job. So we're gonna get back on the quarterback train. Choo. Ready? Jameis Winston, 4 for 5, 30 yards, a 91.7 quarterback rating. And I think he did get sacked as well. That Green Bay defense, even the second and third stringers, is not bad. I mean, they came up to play a game, and they did it.
Our backup, our level of offensive line out there also, Hudson can't play left tackle.
No, he can't.
I mean, he's just not capable of playing that position, even against backups in preseason. I don't know what they're going to do there. I don't know how they haven't swung Jones over there, at least to try him on that side. But honestly, if they have to go into the season with Hudson as the backup left tackle, they better pray Wills comes back 100% and doesn't miss any time, because he is just awful over there on the left side right now. I was hoping for a jump. I was hearing in camp they were really working with him, but we talked about it before. A guy that most consider the best line coach in the league couldn't get much out of him, and this guy that we have now doesn't seem to be getting much more. So pretty worried about that spot, given the fact that we haven't seen anybody out on the field at the left side other than him this whole camp. But I do think that affected all of the quarterbacks a little. But James, 4 for 5 for 30 yards, 92 passer rating in just a short series. It was fine. It was all I needed to see from Jameis, really.
That humble guy that you see gospel speaking on every interview.
His highlight
he's-
didn't come from the game, right? His highlight for this week came from that this and that knick-knack,
Knick-knack,
paddywhack,
paddywhack.
give a dog a bone. Deshaun Watson is going to turn it on.
Yeah, when
He's-
the lights
he's like,
come
I
on.
rhymed. I didn't even mean to rhyme.
Yeah.
Like,
Angel actually said that a couple of months ago. When Jameis Winston came here, he's like, man, the guy's so. We all agreed the guy's so
Yep.
easy to like because the way he speaks. Did you
He's
guys
so
see his
fun.
pregame talk?
his pregame talk this week was fire, man.
Yeah,
it
he's
was
so
good.
fun, man. He's always there to pump everybody up. He's having that interview where he's actually talking about how good Deshaun Watson is, and he's like still getting you like excited. He's awesome. Like I just think we talked about it early in the offseason. It would only be a matter of time before everybody like screaming for Flacco got a chance to get pretty excited about Jameis. They play a very similar game, but Jameis is younger. He's more fun. He has a better chance of staying with this team longer term because if it works out this year, they could extend him. It was a really good pickup by Barry. So, but not a ton out of this game. But like I said, you didn't have to see much. He went in, he went 4 for 5 on passes, and that was about it.
Tyler Huntley, I was not impressed with, to be honest. He didn't look like he was comfortable in the pocket at all. And again, you got your second and third string line out there, so the defense is going to get in there. He went 6 for 9 for 41 yards with a 76.6 rating.
To me, that's not good enough, right?
Yeah, but it's preseason, Chad. So who cares?
Still.
It's
still
preseason, and he's trying to make the team.
Yeah.
That's who cares. The only person that should care is the person trying to make the team.
I agree.
Again, I do think Kevin gets more. I think he said as much as he tries to get as much as he can out of practice and joint practices more than the games, because that's in a situation where they can control. But again, if you're looking at keeping 3 quarterbacks on the active roster, and you've got obviously 2 that you've got lined up, and number 3 is DTR or Huntley. If Huntley gets a chance to go in first, like he wants to outplay Robinson if he can.
What do you think of Huntley, Angel?
Well, that was not a good stat line. I'll tell you that. I didn't get to see him play, but I liked Huntley in Baltimore. I thought he was good, but I guess I'm not disappointed because I'm not surprised. I don't think he's going to put up Winston numbers. But I thought he would be a little better than that, I guess. I don't know. I don't think he's going to make the team. I'm hoping he plays well enough in the second game here or the third game to even somebody will give us like a 5th round pick for him or something. Because I think you're going to have to keep DTR.
I think people are hoping for that, but man, that was such a long shot to pull off even last season, but you just never know. I wouldn't count on it because it takes too many factors. Like somebody else without a backup is going to have an injury.
Yeah.
But the right situation, they have a young guy in Minnesota with like JJ McCarthy, and then they've got Sam Darnold there to try to like maybe start the season off. If he were to get hurt, maybe you feel like we can't just have JJ McCarthy by himself. We need a vet in the room. So that kind of situation could lead to a trade, but it just seems like a long shot to hope somebody goes down. And
you
then there's
get cuts for sure.
Yeah. And then your guy DTR, preseason MVP
2 years in a row
from last year.
Second year.
The only thing that worries me, obviously, about DTR's performance, because it was, I think, a little better than Huntley's. It might have been one of the better ones of the day. But again, he played mostly the second half, and not the craziest competition. What gives me pause is he looked just as good or better in the preseason last year, and then we saw what a giant drop off it was from the regular season. So I guess it's hard to get excited about that with him.
So we've seen Tyler Huntley play for Baltimore and actually show up and ball
That's
pretty
the
decent.
worry. Yeah, that's the worry. Is DTR plays great in preseason, but then you saw the regular season and it didn't look very good. Whereas Huntley isn't great in the regular season, but they have something more important than preseason to look at to decide whether he makes his team. So I think DTR has to be consistently really, really good if he's going to win that spot back.
Kevin,
He's not going to make it through waivers. Somebody will nab him if he
he's
cut for the practice squad. So one
Kevin
of them's got to make it.
DTR is too small and only 1 year younger than Huntley. Huntley is 26. DTR is 24.
Or 2. Yeah, I thought that
so
was.
There's a 2 year difference, but I mean,
they're both young enough. They're both young enough to staff.
DTR was drafted by the organization too, so that kind of gives him a leg up.
Absolutely.
Right or wrong, that does help.
Yep.
Yeah, but the MVP with a 14 for 18.
I mean, he had the best passer
yards.
rating. Yeah, he had the best
97.
passer rating. He had a decent stat line. He just, just not special enough. But I had marked on this one. There was a very clear problem to the entire offense, no matter which quarterback was in there. When you looked at our yards per pass, we finished at 5.8 yards per attempt, which is not great. And our rushing attack, counting everybody, was 2.8 yards per carry. Not great. Like I said, even for preseason, you're hoping to just execute a basic offense, and I just don't think that's very good. I think they came out really, really flat, and I don't know, kind of, I'd say if anything else, wasted an opportunity to shine out there. There just wasn't any offensive players that, for me, particularly shined. Nothing like what Brady Breeze was able to do.
Yes and no. What infuriated me was we want to see these receivers and other tight ends that are going to be second, third stringer, number 1, 2, and 3 tight ends. And you had 32 passes for 188 yards and 20 rushes for 56 yards. And thank God we waived John Kelly. Why? Why was he even there?
I feel bad, but I felt the exact same way because every time he got the ball, all I could think was, we are wasting a rep for somebody to have a chance by giving it to John Kelly, who I just did not think had a shot at making this final roster. I don't know if people know. Do you guys know how old John Kelly is?
I could find that out
32.
I know how old he is. Yeah, it feels like he's been here for a long time, right? He's 27.
Yeah,
he's a year younger than Nick Chubb. He's a year younger than Nick Chubb. He's about the same age as Montgomery, same age as Saquon Barkley. He's the same age as guys that I'm trading in Dynasty because I'm they're getting towards the end. I'm ready to move on and get something from them. You can't be a 27-year-old running back when running backs only last till about 29 who hasn't yet made the active roster and played. It's not there. He's been a great teammate. He's been a practice squad guy. He's been consistently in camp for a couple of years in a row, but when he doesn't have a future on the team and it's not even that they were rushing with him because we've got Nyheim Hines hurt. We've got Chubb hurt. We've got Dante Foreman not playing because
he's back. He came back today.
Yeah. He didn't play though. Right.
Yeah.
So all those guys were out. So you do need some bodies to run the ball. What bothered me was he kept ending up taking dump offs on either passing plays or situations where I thought they should be specifically trying to get the ball to a playmaking running back like one of these young guys who may show something in the passing game and become a third down back, or you got to get the ball out, like Mike said, to these tight ends and wide receivers who are trying to find some rhythm, get some experience. And instead it was 2-yard, 3-yard dump offs to John Kelly. I think he got 5 receptions. You can't have your 5th string, 6th string running back getting 5 receptions and 4 carries in a preseason game. That was my thought. So I don't know.
I typically don't get upset over a preseason game. Supposedly, if you looked at Kevin Stefanski, he didn't have a play sheet in his hand. They think that Ken Dorsey was making all the play calls.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Eric says, "Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Angel."
Kevin said today he was calling plays. My gosh, I couldn't get that out. He said that he was calling plays. That's what, because someone asked, "Were you calling plays?" He said, "Yes, I was."
I didn't see a play sheet in his hand. Somebody zoomed into his hand. He's sitting there. All you see was his wedding ring, and that was it.
Maybe he's got it
Hmm.
memorized. Maybe he has
Yeah.
the entire
He got
playbook
rid of the
memorized.
Denny's menu, as people like to call it.
He's brilliant.
He's like-
Yes.
No, but do you think you knew he was done after that fumble? He's like, I'm cut.
I thought so.
I'm done.
And they talked about it on the radio today. They said, yeah,
Yeah.
like you fumbled.
You're
You
done.
have your chance here to show what you're capable of doing for this team.
And you're the fourth, fifth back. You know, as soon as you fumble, you're just like, oh, I'll see you
Yeah.
You're not even on a
guys.
practice
And I'm
squad.
sure
Yeah.
they came to the same realization. I'm sure I'm sure it's not just that fumble. It's, hey, this was the most opportunities you've gotten. You're 27. Like, you're probably not going to be a back on this team that is somebody we're counting on this year. They're looking for guys to fill the practice squad and guys to roll out the roster who might be young and developmental going forward. The guys who are going to make this team are, like I said, we've gone over this. We could probably name like at least 45 right now who are definitely a lock to make this team. So they're looking for bottom of the roster, like who can we keep around? And if you aren't a guy with like a huge developmental upside, you just don't have much of a role here.
Yeah.
And for everybody that's like, well, he could contribute on special teams, so can a 22 or 23-year-old running back or receiver who also could one day in the future be a player for your team.
Yep.
So,
Bar
And
Eric
27
on
27 is
Facebook
just
really
too
quick.
old.
I'm sorry, Angel. Bar Eric
No, you're
says
good.
preseason blows. Who's tailgating Saturday? So I'll be there, and you're gonna leave. He said, "I go and leave. The first half is so boring." I'll be
Yeah.
there. I don't think I'm gonna tailgate. Me and my wife are actually gonna be tailgating on a cruise
On
lunch
the
thing.
boat.
Yeah.
On the boat.
So I'm gonna probably already be inebriated when I get there. I can't promise anything, but it will be there.
You see Mike, take a picture and just tag Bearder Browns put it on Facebook.
Yeah,
So we can
Bar
laugh.
Eric. Yeah, take a picture of me. I will be in a Nick Chubb jersey, and yeah, that's about it. My wife will be wearing a Myles Garrett jersey because that's her man. Just how it works.
no arguing with that.
No, it's fair. It's fair. Chubb is your man. She's got Miles as her man. It's
Yeah,
all even.
everybody that's listening, we got an event for. We have an event for the home opener. I'll be there against Dallas. We're trying to fill the entire stadium with as many Chubb jerseys as we can. I think it's kind of a cool idea. Kind of
it.
show respect to the guy.
I love it. Spread the word.
Spread it.
Bar Eric just says, "I go to see my friends. That's it. Your friends are the Cleveland Browns.
All day.
That's what I'm going to stick to." All right. Let's get into Kevin. I'm not even reading that right now, but I will read it and try to touch base with whatever book you just wrote. Did any of the receivers stand out to you guys at the preseason game at all?
So Angel didn't watch. I think.
You watched highlights.
But you probably saw the stat line. I mean, I feel like
I
when
saw
you see
a
the
stat
line. You know, almost every receiver on the team had about 2 targets and then maybe 1 to 2 catches, and then they were out. So, not a lot to gather. None of the big 3, none of the starting 3 played. Judy, Elijah, and Cooper weren't out there. So disappointed I didn't get to see a little Tillman because everybody's been telling me how he stood out in camp and how he's, getting ready to make a leap. I think he had 1 catch and then looked very out of place for a missed reception later on. And that was about it.
Why is it always the guy that has like the camp stardom? Always the guy that like
It's on the Browns.
preseason game. It's like disappoint. It's like, we're excited to see him. He's having a great camp. Then preseason comes, he's like, he's not
There's
doing
something
anything.
about these guys that are
Weird.
either like little and incredibly fast or just big and imposing that looks really good when you're playing in shorts.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But I didn't see much from Tillman. I didn't see much from Bell. Jamari Rash is really the only guy that like got a couple passes, and he didn't do anything incredibly good, but I think he did everything you're hoping out of a 5th round rookie, right?
Yeah.
you have a stat line down here, Mike. He had 3 receptions on 5 targets. Okay. 43 yards with a long of 22. So a couple 10.5 yarders and then a 22 yarder. So he showed some range. He showed a good yards per reception, a decent reception per target overall. So I think that's the guy that probably I can feel pretty good about. And then you had Amari Brown on there. I mean, I would be shocked if he gets to stick around, but he was one of the only other guys that was out there for a while.
He had some really, really good catches. Obviously under pressure catches, catches while getting hit. So that's huge. You need that. You need these guys to be able to hold on to the ball. Like you got David Bell that misses a ball in an open field,
and he's hurt. So I mean that hurts him.
Yeah, what's really tough for him is he's hurt, and he is, I think, one of our. We did not have very many bubble guys on this roster. I think when we talked early in the offseason about like who was going to end up on the roster bubble, I don't think my mind has changed at all. There's like 3 guys total. You know, there's some offensive line bubble. There's some defensive line deep bubble, and which might not even exist anymore. And then there was a wide receiver on the bubble, and it was David Bell, and it was like he has to do something this year to show that he's worth a potential re-sign in the future to make this team over some other young guys. And I didn't see it. Somebody had brought up earlier in a conversation on social media, well, he did have that one long catch, and it got pulled back on a penalty by Tillman, which the problem with that is another shot at Tillman, like not knowing how to move out there, because he basically ran a purposeful cross route to try to cut off a player, but he just did too big of a pick, which you can't do. And I wouldn't say like, oh, Tillman cost David Bell that play, because I don't know that David Bell has a very dynamic play unless Tillman just slams right into his cornerback. So he did catch that and run it around for whatever it was, 15, 18 yards. But I don't think he's even close to that wide open, and he's caught. Maybe he swings the first down for that 4 yards, but he's probably caught right away if Tillman doesn't do that. So, you know, not a great showing by either of them. It's only one preseason game. It's not much. It matters more what they've done, what they're going to keep doing. But it just didn't. I was looking for in the preseason game, I think all you can see is some sign of like, wow, somebody showed some kind of promise on the young side of your team, and it just wasn't there from anybody but Jamari Thrash, and that's about it.
Our Twitter feed obviously isn't working well, so everybody, I will upload the show afterwards back to Twitter so you guys can watch us. Eric, Bar Eric, thank you for following us as well. Facebook is mostly clear. All right, cool. Yeah. I think we're all right on everything else. Just Twitter's being weird right now. X, sorry.
X.
You guys want to hear a big X? The injury to Luke Wypler.
Yeah, man.
That was a huge X.
Bummer for the Ohio State alum. Yeah. He looked like this was going to be his chance with Brian Allen getting hurt and then released on an injury settlement to just step in and like hold down the number 2 spot. And he broke his leg. I guess the positive news is a leg fracture. It's probably his fibula, which is the smaller bone on the outside of your ankle. That's what breaks most easily. You get rolled on it. The good news is the surgery is probably just to realign the bone and put a little bracket on there so it heals back together. That could be removed sometime in the future. Mostly it's not, but chances are it's not going to affect his actual career. But it is tough for any guy that young who hasn't already shown something to make his mark. But he's only in the second year of a 4-year deal. He probably won't be back this year because it will be hard for him to come back. And let's say he's cleared in 8 weeks or something. It's going to be hard to bring him back in October because you'd have to cut somebody else from the team. So chances are, unless they really need him, he's probably going on IR for the season.
You guys heard it here first. Obviously, Dr. Chad, man, breaking the news.
Yeah, but he it will. I do not believe this would affect him in the long term, and he's can come back right back next year and try to get that roster spot back. Fortunately, we brought back one of my guys, Nick Harris.
Yes.
He was a guy I was kind of sad to lose in the first place.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Angel?
Yeah, I like Nick Harris. I think I'm hoping the fullback thing happens again. But yeah, I'm glad he's back. He's a good backup. I'm very disappointed that Wypler is hurt. I was really, really looking forward to seeing
Yeah, we
him.
liked him.
Yeah, I really did, man. That kind of when I was checking the feed during when my wife disappeared and I was able to actually look at my phone. I was like, oh, she's like, what? I'm like, nothing, and I threw my phone. But
And
but yeah, I was
injuries
disappointed
happen.
when I saw that. Yeah,
Injuries happen, and losing a backup center is not the end of the world. But losing a backup center a week after you lost your backup center,
sucks.
so now you're out of backup centers. We've had some bad luck at center for years, and it's just continuing. But I did feel pretty
We had a
pretty
bad
happy
luck
that they
year on
brought
the
back Harris.
offensive line in total.
Yeah, altogether, I just think that's true. It's been bad. It's been bad all around on the offensive line. But I called it the Andrew Berry special. He traded Nick Harris. He didn't even actually just trade a pick. He did that same thing he's done in the past once or twice, where he's like, well, how about we give you our 6th for your 7th, and you give us Nick Harris. And that sounded so familiar to when it's like, I don't know where we'll land, but let's say we land 20 spaces apart like we did with Elijah Moore, where it ends up being how about we trade down 20 spots and you give us Elijah Moore? This could be that same scenario where the Browns trade back 20, 10, 20 spots, and they also get Nick Harris out of it, who we already know will fit fine into this line and this scheme. So that was good. If you bring a guy in, it's nice to bring somebody in familiar that can just go. I hope he enjoyed his 3-month vacation to Seattle. But welcome back to Cleveland.
Yeah. I like it. I like the move.
I'll just drive through these injuries too, because they're all non-consequential. Ronnie Hickman strained his back when he was chasing on that play. I doubt he'll miss any time unless we hear more. Nathaniel Watson and David Bell both had quad strains.
yeah.
Those are the type of things where I would wonder. We don't know the severity, but that's a very hard muscle to strain severely. It's a very large muscle group. So I wouldn't be shocked if it were a regular season game or a regular week. They wouldn't miss any time. So we'll see. They're probably going to be treated a little tenderly. It's worse for David Bell because he's not a rookie and he really has a lot to prove. But there's a good chance that even if they miss the next preseason game, they could have played if it was a game week. So we'll see some of them in the next 2 weeks anyway.
Yeah. Injuries. You don't want to see them pile up in preseason. And I think this is another reason a lot of people hate preseason, because it happens. You put your first, second, third stringers out there, and anything's possible because there are guys on the opposite team fighting for a position as well. So they're going to try to hit hard, make it look good for their coach so they get a job.
And the other thing is, this is something that we're looking at changing as soon as they inevitably go to that 8-team game schedule. They're going to have to give up another preseason game. And for the players, I think they'll go for that, because if you get hit in the regular season, you get an IR settlement. You've been part of the team. You work your active roster towards your retirement. If you get hurt in preseason, you just get cut and you get nothing. So it's a lot. It's a pretty big switch to have a regular season. Obviously, you play much more in a regular season game, and it's more impactful to your injuries and things. But it's just, I think at least the injury is meaningful. Getting injured for the fans, the team, coaches, players in the preseason feels like just a missed opportunity. So
thank you, Force of Nature, for subscribing to us on YouTube as well. The highlight of the entire game, as Chad didn't want to talk about this, is the 1-yard touchdown run by Aiden Robinson. That's
I
it.
skipped right over it.
That's all we're gonna say. I seen it. I seen your.
Is a 1-yard touchdown run that I believe could have been done by Angel in the right circumstances, and I'm not giving Aiden Robinson any credit for that. But
Neither.
now that we're down one more running back, he'll get much more opportunity to do something great. What's tough for Aiden Robinson is I think he had 5 carries for 6 yards. So great that one of those yards was for a touchdown. but he averaged like 1.2 yards per rush. So
Yeah.
not a great opener for the young kid.
Bar Eric says the NFL is getting so diluted. Some of the weird rule changes. I seen a couple hip tackles that didn't get called either. I'm like, all right, what the hell are we doing with that? You guys going to call
Hopefully
these
not
hip
calling
tackles?
it because it's a super stupid rule. It's going to be impossible to enforce.
Do you think the refs are probably like, you know what, dude, this has been happening for 100 years. We're not going to stop it now.
There's going to be one game where somebody legitimately wraps somebody up and pulls them down, and it's going to be misseen by a weird angle, and the flag's going to go, and it's going to be impactful, and everybody's going to freak out. And I just wish this was not even a rule, but it is, and hopefully they're just light on it.
So as we all know, final score was 23-10. The first quarter, I want to say we had like 4 or 5 penalties for 30 yards. And we talked about it before where the Kevin Stefanski and the whole coaching staff had, the defense and offense under control where we weren't getting as penalized. Do you think with these new guys, I mean, obviously second and third stringers are going out there just not.
I think we played even less impactful guys this year than last year because I feel like the difference is this year Schwartz knows who's on his defense. Stefanski and Dorsey know who's on their offense. So, like, it doesn't worry me too much. Like I said, specifically, I didn't like the one from Tillman because I don't want to see a receiver who we're looking to be better at navigating the field, making silly mistakes at that. The one to Zinter that brought back a touchdown, I can chalk that one up to like first ever NFL jitters where it was probably like an RPO, and maybe he was like, oh dude, I'm just taking this guy off the ball. And then he turned around and was like, I'm 8 yards down the field and it was fast. So like that, those ones I can excuse a little bit, a hold by like a backup player or something, fine. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about the overall penalties as much for me anyway, as I would an individual penalty by somebody that I think shouldn't have made that silly mistake.
All right, we're not even going to ask that either. We're going to move on. Stefanski announces that DW Deshaun Watson.
Actually, you did answer that already.
Yes,
the question was what could have made this game better when you said getting the ball to impactful players that we would like to see.
Right.
Yeah,
that's why I kind of just skipped through that one.
Yeah, what we talked about at the beginning. That was it.
Stefanski did answer the question, is Deshaun Watson going to play in preseason? Yes, and that's going to be against Seattle at 10 o'clock. Chad will still be awake.
I will. It'll only be like 7:30 here.
Oh, you're going to be drinking those Natter days?
It's going to be a primetime game. I hope to have some Natter days. I actually will probably be in Seattle for that game. However, I still don't know if I'm going to go to the game because at the time I planned the trip, it was for a birthday, and she's not really going to want to do the Browns game for her birthday. So
her birthday.
It's going to be a very weird coincidence that I will be in Seattle on the Saturday of the game, but most likely not going unless somebody throws tickets at us.
Just suggest it. Say, I think you should go to this Browns game.
So that weekend, Chad gets no.
That's right. I do love me some Seattle, though. That's a great town. If you guys haven't been there, that's worth planning a trip for. But yeah, I'm glad Stefanski announced this now because I knew Deshaun wasn't going to play in the game with the group practice because we never did that with Baker. We didn't do that last year with Deshaun. That's just not how you roll. You play against the starters of the other team all week. You don't need to go out there and play them in the game. You get so many more reps in the practice week. And I knew all the Deshaun haters were going to freak out. Like, oh, I guess he's not playing at all. I guess, and it was like, Stefanski came out right away and was like, he's not playing this week. Just so you know, he'll play next week. And so now everybody doesn't have time to whine about it.
You pay him $200 million and he doesn't play in the preseason.
And they're not going to look at who else is playing.
Yeah.
Jordan Love played 2 snaps, and they're going to be like, why couldn't Deshaun play? And you're like, why would he play those 2 snaps? I don't know.
Sam said, look for a Browns backer bar in Seattle, Chad, and go.
There is one, and I've been to it. It is really fun. If I could pull that, if I could sneak, be like, oh,
this is a cool bar.
For your birthday, we should hit this one bar I heard is really cool, and then I'll just sneak to the Browns room and disappear. Happy
All right.
birthday in there.
Yeah.
So,
So
but yeah, so there is a fun bar there in Seattle. I can't remember what it is, but I remember going, and it had a really awesome vibe, and it was loaded with Browns fans. We had a great time last time. I go to Seattle a lot. I have a handful of friends that live there, and when I first moved to California, they had all just moved to Seattle, so it was like, oh, we were constantly going back and forth. Like it's a couple hour flight. It's actually very far away. I think people think because it's on the West Coast, it's close, but like it would be similar to you flying probably to, I don't know, Florida.
who did that?
2
Right?
hours.
Like, how far is a flight to, like, I don't know, Orlando?
2.5 hours. I did that this twice back to back
So
years.
Seattle's actually farther. So Seattle's actually like a 3 hour plus flight.
Mm.
So it's far because they're literally on the Canada border. Like they're like an hour from the Canada border, and I'm like a half an hour from the Mexico border. So it's the whole country, but it stays in the same time zone. It's a direct flight. It's an easy flight. So it was fun doing that little back and forth for a couple of years.
Paul Moyer, thank you for joining the show. Woo! He knows what that means. Yeah. Let's get to the
Hey,
IU.
we covered the game. It's wide receiver talk time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody's tired of talking about potential Browns wide receivers.
Especially you. Oh, did I just hit a button? I did. I added a whole nother tab there.
Yeah.
I screwed that all up. Sorry. Anyways, is the Ayuk trade to
He said,
Cleveland?
and the culture Cooper hater. Paul said that.
Is the
That's
Ayuk
so good.
Cleveland
Oh, good.
trade?
Somebody's been paying attention. Oh,
It's
good.
a
Somebody's been
thing.
paying
It's
attention
a
to my
thing.
constant hate.
Yeah.
Yes, it's laid to rest. I believe we all believe. I
Yeah,
think we're all on
yeah.
the same page with that.
At the expense, though.
Of
I don't
what?
think it's 100% to rest. I would give it like 95% chance now. He's staying right where he is.
Yeah, I think he's going to stay, but at the expense of Cooper's feelings. Though I think he's got a little hurt. I read a little something
No.
while I was on the phone for 2 seconds before my wife came in the room. That Cooper put something on Instagram or his Twitter, and I'm like, oh man. I didn't get to read into it. I totally forgot by the time I got home. But I thought, man, I hope
It's easy
he's
to read
feeling
into. So it's not the end of the world. I'm not going to exaggerate it. You guys know I've already said, like, everybody in Cleveland talks about how Amari is like this locker room guy and no trouble ever and like the perfect guy. How would you replace his culture on the team? And I'm like, dude, the guy got kicked off of the Raiders. They couldn't wait to. They used the 4th pick in the draft on him, and then they're like, oh, we'll take any first rounder to get him off the books. And then Dallas gave him away for a 5th, partially because like there was like personality issues and stuff. Then he comes to Cleveland. He plays great, which is why subliminally I think Clevelanders actually love him. But instead of just being like, we like him because he's good, they're like, we like him because he's like the perfect locker room guy. Meanwhile, he sits out OTAs, says he wants more money. He sits out minicamp because he wants guaranteed money and an extension. Now he's back and he gets caught up in trade rumors and he posts online like, well, I wouldn't mind if I did.
Yeah.
No, he
Like,
didn't
it
say
did
that.
happen.
He didn't say that. That was
What he
saying
said.
I wouldn't mind. LOL. And I think what happened was he went to a restaurant and they asked him what he wanted: steak, chicken, or pork, and he said I wouldn't mind. LOL.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Okay.
We're taking it way out of context.
Yeah. You put anything in
think-
there.
I think some other people may have taken it as, hey, if you trade me, whatever, I'm good with it. But I'm sure it hasn't, just because it's been all over my feed on every single account for the last
Mhm.
4 days. I'm sure it's not a distraction at all that he
No.
made a comment. But anyways, that's my point. I'm not going to
Seriously,
overblow
2
it.
weeks
It's a
prior to
mild
that, he said
comment.
he's not a fan of change. He doesn't like change. He wants to stay where he's at. And then we did the Ayuk stuff. Same thing we did with Baker and Deshaun Watson. And that pissed people
But
off.
how do you not do the Ayuk stuff? Like you do the Ayuk stuff because Ayuk is a guy that you might want to trade for.
Yeah, I agree to an extent. But then here comes CD Lamb. Like, oh, I want to take my headphones off for this because I don't want to hear any of you guys talk about this. Anyone else?
It's the receiver trade coming through. Oh,
Yeah,
Brandon
it's just-
Ayuk doesn't want to play here. What about CD Lamb? Will he play here?
He's a much better receiver, but
I think that's a
we have
longer
no-
shot.
he's going to want more money, and we don't have that. yeah, I would like CD Lamb. I prefer him over Ayuk, but that's a 0% chance. You think Jerry Jones is going to let him go to Cleveland after letting Cooper go?
Yeah, he made one big
Yeah, that's a
stupid
tough one.
mistake. Why not make another
Yeah.
one? For
Yeah,
us?
Here's
let's
the
do that
thing.
twice in a row.
Here's the thing: the trade to Dallas becomes much more challenging because they're not taking Cooper back, and the 49ers sounds like, if the report is true, which we don't know for sure. This came out of San Fran, and it might have been like a bargaining chip thing. But if the report is true,
Yep.
they wanted a second round pick in Cooper, which makes sense. But they could use Cooper for this year's Super Bowl window, and Dallas, it's probably not the same scenario. So they're going to want probably no
lot.
Cooper and more draft picks. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know what we have that Dallas needs that could be in the mix, but if we're also in a Super Bowl kind of window, you don't want to give up anybody but a receiver when you're getting a receiver back. Like, it made sense that you could give up Cooper if you're getting Ayuk, who's going to play the exact same position.
Yep.
If it doesn't make sense to trade another position you can't replace for CD Lamb. However, and I think they're pretty close. You said you think Lamb's a lot better. I think the difference is Lamb is the overall probably better player. I think Ayuk to me is probably a like top 10 receiver. Lamb is probably like a top 5 receiver, like very elite. The difference is Lamb isn't a traditional outside X receiver like Ayuk could play, and that's what Cooper plays. So like Ayuk fit the perfect trade scenario. If you bring in Lamb, you probably want to keep Cooper because you want Cooper outside, and you want Lamb to be able to go from the flanker Y spot to the slot. So
that makes sense.
I don't think Lamb is. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Angel.
No, I'm just saying that makes sense. They're kind of, it makes sense. Two different receivers you can have. Yeah, makes sense.
You kind of want to pair Cooper and Lamb.
Yeah.
Ayuk could replace Cooper, and then you'd have it sort of paired Ayuk and Judy and Moore.
Yeah.
So,
man.
But they're both my definition of a number one receiver. They just play different spot on the field, but they both are my version of a number one. Both of them would have been great on the Browns. Both of them are young enough that you have a wide receiver that you can look at for the next 4 or 5 years, where that's the thing that I've had so many conversations with Cleveland fans. That's what they're not getting about Coop. It's not that the Browns don't love him. It's not that the fans don't love him. It's not that the team doesn't love him. It's not that he's not great, and it's not that he's not a number one receiver. It's that he's 30, and we don't know how much longer he can go. So if you can turn that into a guy who's 25 or 26, and you've got at least 4+ years of him, that's a great scenario.
My Aunt Janine is mad. She said aggravation, and then we started talking about CeeDee Lamb. She said dream.
Like dream. Yeah. One word. That's all you need.
That is it. Yep. That's what we do as Browns fans. It's dream. Would you guys rather have, if you had one pick, Ayuk or Lamb?
I would go with Lamb, but I would stay with Cooper. Either way.
I would take Lamb, but for me, it's very close. Either, I think, like I said, I think Ayuk's probably like the 9th best receiver right now in the league for the next 4 years, and Lamb's probably like top 4. That's better. And they're going to cost similar money. You'd find a way to make them both work on this team. Like, I guess all of a sudden Jerry Jeudy just goes out wide, or you really have to forward Tillman, but like, you make Lamb work. He's a beast out there.
I agree. I agree with Lamb. And the next question is, are they both worth the same money? Sam McCarver said
Ayuk
Lamb.
30, Lamb 32,
More.
33.
I was thinking 28, 30.
For who?
Both of them.
Lamb's going to get what Jeffrey's got.
Yeah, whatever Jeffrey. Yeah, Jeffrey had. Oh yeah, whatever Jefferson's had.
But what if you give him? What if you give him like a 5-year deal? He's still young. Give him a 5-year, $30 million deal a year.
Yeah, it'll be close to that. It'll be. I would think he's just going to want a little bit more than that. I think he's going to want somewhere around like 5 years, $32 million.
Yeah, he's going to want exactly what that guy in Minnesota got. A big JJ.
Which is, I mean, that's honestly, that's
sense.
The only reason he's on the trade block is because Dallas doesn't like to pay people all of a sudden, which, by the way, is baffling. I get why Cincinnati doesn't. I get why some other organizations don't. I have no idea why Dallas doesn't want to pay people. Like, you have you're one of the like highest income teams. I don't know.
You have your own city inside of a city surrounded by you have a little city of a stadium, and you call it Jerry's World, and you don't have enough money to pay probably one of the best receivers, top 5 receivers in the league, and you need Prescott needs them. I mean, come on, Jerry, don't screw yourself.
My
Just
aunt
pay the
Janine's
guy.
going crazy. She said, plus them free haircuts. You can't forget about the free haircuts.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think they're going to try to keep him too
Yeah.
in the most likely scenario, but it's just weird that it's even like a conversation. And I do think it's funny how many Browns fans like immediately slid over to like,
Yeah.
oh, we didn't get
CeeDee
Ayuk.
Lamb?
Like, oh, who cares about him? Like, we wanted CD Lamb anyway.
Yeah, he's better.
I was over
I
it
will
2
say
days
this.
after the whole drama thing, and like you said, is it all fan drama? Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the question. So I exaggerated the whole Cooper, like not a great. He's probably a fine teammate, but like I
Yeah.
just don't think he's a saint. But realistically, we're probably making a much bigger deal on this than anybody else. The report was he was on the sidelines at the game. He was interacting with everyone fine. There was no sign of drama. So it's probably mostly us, but it's a one comment thing. Honestly, if anything, maybe that comment was just obviously the Browns didn't come to him like we're thinking about trading you. Those are private secret talks that they're having with the 49ers. The San Francisco CBS team was who leaked all the information, which makes you think the 49ers were leaking it to them because they want bargaining chips, because they want Ayuk to know the only 2 places you can go are Cleveland or New England. And maybe they know he didn't want to go there. And they're like, hey, the Steelers, it's not going to happen. Washington, it's not going to happen. Like maybe they're leaking that to him without talking to him directly. And maybe that's Amari Cooper's way of saying, like, if this does happen, I'm not going to make a fuss about it. Send me off. I'll be good in San Francisco. But
So many rumors. He wanted to go to Pittsburgh. That was his home
I
place.
think that's true. He's said that. He's said, I like Mike Tomlin. I'd love to play for Mike Tomlin. And everybody knows he's been texting and FaceTiming with Jaden Daniels. They're boys. So like,
But he also said want to go somewhere where the weather is garbage. So how are you gonna?
I don't think he wants to go that many places. I think he literally was like, I'm the boss. I'm either trade me to Washington or Pittsburgh. And San Francisco was pulling like a trump card to say, guess what? We don't have to trade you anywhere. Like, we're not going to trade you to go play where you want. Like, you can make excuses for where you don't want to go, but you do not have control of the situation. We'll just keep you here. Like, either re-sign here or wait and hope for the best. So I think they were kind of like taking a stand against what looked like from him, like, I'm going to pool rank and let people know how unhappy I am, and then you'll have to trade me. And they're like, no, we really don't. We'll leak everything about where you can and can't go. We'll make you look terrible in the process.
So do you think that could be a possibility? John Lynch, the GM of the San Francisco 49ers, said, hey, we're going to go ahead and play ball with you out there. We're going to release all this information about you, and you go ahead and go. But you're going to wind up coming back after you realize what you've done and made yourself kind of look like a fool.
It's happened before where guys are like, you can seek a trade if you want. Go out there. Tell people you're available, and they can make us offers. And if we like them, sure, you can go there. And basically, he told them where he liked, and they said, nope, these are the only places we're willing to take the offers from. And it put him in a position where he either has to, because now he's like, I want out, I want paid. And now they're like, well, we've got 2 teams willing to pay you, and he doesn't want to go to them, which means now it's on him to re-sign, or like, because he made himself look like, I don't want it in San Francisco. If you're not going to extend me, I want to be somewhere that wants me. You don't see my value. And they're like, well, these 2 teams, New England and Cleveland, they do see your value. They're willing to deal with you. The one thing that never came out of it that I never saw, there's no actual report of what Cleveland offered. So as much as the report came out that Ayuk didn't want to take the offer from Cleveland, he said from New England, the numbers came out. They were going to give him 32 a year. That's huge.
That's huge.
That's huge money for Brandon Ayuk. Life-changing money, top of the market money. And we kind of know what they were willing to trade. And then Cleveland, we kind of know at least what was reported they were going to trade. We don't know what they offered him, though. We don't know if he doesn't want to come to Cleveland because they're like, hey, we're willing to give San Francisco this for you. but we want to give you 28 a year. And he's like, San Francisco is going to give me 26 a year. I'll just stay there for
Nicer
the $2
weather.
million. Or now they know Cleveland was going to offer 28, and now they can go back to the table with Ayuk and say, we'll match that 28 from Cleveland if you stay, or whatever it is.
It's a smorgasbord. At that point, I don't even care. I got so pissed off over the whole thing. I'm like, after 2 days, I'm like, I'm done, man.
Yeah.
Stay or
it got old.
Go anywhere but Pittsburgh. I'm cool with that.
That's the best part of it, is that he's not going to Pittsburgh, it looks like, and it's like, oh,
we don't want him in this conference. You stay.
I don't want the third best receiving core in this conference going forward.
Yep.
I want Higgins to leave. I want T. Higgins to leave the Bengals next year, and I want the Browns to be trying to fight for the number one receiving core.
So let's move along here. We got some other stuff to talk about really quick.
Last thing, really.
No, I got one more thing I want to bring up after that.
Always a surprise.
Always.
Oh.
Doesn't go without saying. So, Angel, what is your opinion on a wide receiver 1, 2, and 3? What would be your like statistical 1, 2, and 3 on a team?
I can cheat right now.
Yes, you can.
Don't use mine.
Well, I agree. I agree with all.
I agree. Chad put up some good numbers on the board, but I would agree with everything he said. Your receiver 1,100 yards, 75 receptions, consistently catches up, matches up with the top corner. I like that. Wide receiver 2, 600, can play in 12, 50 plus receptions. Wide receiver 3, 350 yards, 30 receptions. Yeah, I kind of agree with that ballpark. It would be nice to have a receiver number 1 do that consistently every year, though.
Yeah, so basically, let me see if I can do it. Am I able to do this real quick? Does anything get affected if I do a really quick screen share?
I don't think so.
We'll find out.
Yeah, don't.
Let's see if
Just
I
make
can
sure
do it.
your photo gallery's not up first, and then we'll be all right. So, I agree with all of them.
There
but
it is.
The wide receiver 3, I would like to have. Oh, I gotta actually add it. Hold on. Chat screen, show on stream.
So it didn't just cover. I thought it would just cover me.
No, it's 4 screens. Nice.
Is it what? It's
I was just going to show. This is the Excel sheet that I used to like look over what would be like a wide receiver 1, 2, and 3 numbers. It's all of the receivers from last season, and that had receptions, and there's a total of 212 of them. Actually, a couple didn't have receptions. It looks like there's a total of about 200 of them. Are you able to see it, Mike?
Yeah, I can see it. Chad did some work. Like that's.
So it's on there. Yeah. It's on there, and I won't go into all of it, but I'm able to like look at yards. I'm able to take yards and like put them in order. And so here's all the yards of every player. And I thought the 2 things that related most to number 1 receiver were, I stopped sharing it, but essentially I thought the 2 things that related the most on statistically would be like, you can't look at yards per catch because the best guy in the league could have 10 total receptions for, 200 yards. And it's like, well, you're a big play receiver that can rarely get used. So I thought when I looked at like 1,100 yards and how I kind of did this was like 1,100 is not how many yards you had, it's how many yards you would have in a 17-game season. Because a lot of people missed a game or 2, and that doesn't mean they're not a wide receiver 1 because they had 997 yards. Like if they had played those other 2 games, they would have had around 1,100, right? So I think a receiver that has around 1,100 plus yards in a 17-game season, somebody who can be expected to have around 75 or more receptions, are the statistical numbers for number 1. But I think what makes a true number 1, you have to be able to match up against a top corner without getting just completely shut down. You have to be able, like maybe one corner, can shut you down. There's always like a guy that Denzel Ward can shut down. He was always really, really good at shutting down like Antonio Brown or like Jamar Chase. He always has a tough matchup with. But when the number 1 corner's on you, typically the number 1 receivers can still be a factor in the game if they're legit number 1s. And also they have to be able to be like the quarterback's first read, even if they're going to shade a safety over there or, Sauce Gardner is going to go over there. The quarterback should still be looking at that guy first. It shouldn't be like, oh, Gardner's on him, I'm not going to go that direction with the ball. And so I think having like 2 or all 3 of those things are what makes a legit number 1. That's why I said I thought Lamb and Ayuk are both number 1s. So is Cooper. They should, all 3 of those guys should be expected to come in this year. And whether they do it or not, they should be expected to be an 1,100 plus yard receiver and have 75 plus receptions. They're going to constantly be looked at as the number 1 option. And then for number 2 receiver, that was more by the numbers, because number 1 receivers came out to like, there's like 26 guys in the league or something like that like were legitimate number 1 by the numbers I picked, which made sense. Like, I'm sure every team doesn't have a legit number 1. And then the wide receiver 2, there was around 30 guys that hit the mark on what I had for number 2, 50 plus receptions, 600 plus yards. And when I said should play in 12 personnel, it means like they can't just be a slot only. Like, if you go to 12 personnel, if you're a number 2 receiver, you should be splitting out wide and staying on the field. They shouldn't take you out every time it's 12 personnel. So you got to be able to play in 12.
Absolutely.
So, and then the wide receiver 3, 350 yards and 30 or so receptions, that came out to be about like 33 guys. So I was like, that sounds about right. Like 33 wide receiver 3s, 30 wide receiver 2s, and like 28 wide receiver 1s. So I think going forward, this is kind of how I'm going to think of it. With that being said, though, we have the potential to have 2 wide receiver 2 level guys with Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah. I would like to see a wide receiver 3 with a couple more yards, maybe 50 to 100 more yards. That'd be great. But
yeah, you said that. It just, when I did the numbers, that only leaves like 20 guys at mark, and I'm like, there can't be 28 wide receiver 1s in the league, but there's only 20 wide receiver 3 quality guys. Like, it just felt like that became more of a numbers game. So I actually lowered that number from 35 plus receptions and 400 yards to like 30 receptions and 350 to get it to like, because I think every team in the league probably has at least a wide receiver 3, if not more. But we'll see. It's always adjustable. That's just kind of what I came out with on the first attempt.
I agree.
So Browns, wide receiver 1, 2 wide receiver 2s. Let's see it.
Let's go.
Yeah, well, I'd be thankful for that. That'd be great. The one thing I wanted to touch base with real quick about stadium talk before we rolled out, build a stadium, dude. You guys talk about how the weather helps us, right? Okay. Our home field, at home, we won 84. We lost 117 with 1 tie. Our win percentage at home is 418. 202 games played. That's horrible.
And then those numbers are skewed because you recently just got a winning organization when you changed your GM and head coach in 2020.
Yeah, the past 4 years have been
the past 4 years
different.
you won more than you did since '99.
So this record was probably at 70.
It's even worse. Yeah.
No, not even. It was lower than that. The last 4 years it was probably at 60 wins, and this is since 1999.
Yeah. So your weather argument has no valid.
And the team is bad. Yeah, I get it. The team is bad, and like, so they probably would lose no matter what the weather is. But the one thing I mean, they were bad, right? So when you look at from '99, like, they would have won or lost probably in every stadium. So it hasn't helped us, and now they're good, and I think now they could probably win in the weather more than they used to. But I think you guys are right. When you put all the numbers together, like, it doesn't necessarily benefit the home team to play in worse weather, because the Detroit Lions, the Buffalo Bills, teams that were bad for a huge chunk of the 2000s and 2010s, played in weather stadiums. Like, it's not just us. Like, it's a disadvantage for it's everybody. Like, today's the NFL, where guys like change in free agency so often. Like, Cleveland fans act like this gives us an advantage because we're Clevelanders. And I'm like, but the players aren't Clevelanders. Players are from South Carolina and
Texas.
Alabama and Florida and Louisiana and Texas and California and Ohio. Like, these players come from everywhere, and they may have played 8 good years in New Orleans, and then they pick up a free agent contract in Cleveland, and like, we're like, home field advantage because now you're playing in Cleveland. Like, not really to them. They're probably freezing their butt off. Like, to all the Cleveland fans that grew up with it and like just gotten used to it. That's not all the players, man. It's time you have to separate the players from the city. They don't even live there, a lot of them, in the off season. So it's like
time to build a dome. Something
Here's another
nice.
thing too. I have just thought of this just now. I haven't mentioned it in any of these like online like debates with people about the stadium. Another huge factor to a home field advantage is noise. The Browns have very loud, very raucous fans. A dome stadium is much louder than an open air stadium, especially when the weather is not even when it's just in the weather, but especially when the weather is 30 degrees or less, 40 degrees or less. But any day of the year, a dome stadium is going to be much louder, and our fans are going to be the ones in there because as long as we're a decent team, the only team who ever comes to Cleveland to take seats is Pittsburgh. And I think we can outnumber them going forward by a lot. So, like, don't just think of the weather as our home field advantage. Think of our fans and their energy as our home field advantage. And when that's the case, the dome will maintain that home field advantage better than any stadium on the lake.
Paul said, isn't Buffalo's new stadium going to be open? I'm not sure. I know it's kind of being built underground somewhat. Like it's going like 40 feet or 50 feet down into the dirt. I'm pretty sure.
So it can actually be buried by the snow there. So you'll be able to.
I don't know. I don't know if they're doing a dome or not.
I don't think it's a dome.
I don't think so either. Because they think that the open field stadium in Buffalo is an advantage. Obviously, you got to hire fans to come out for $20 an hour to bring out the snow.
And I got to tell you, I've been to Buffalo. That was the coldest I ever was. We went there. We went to Holiday Valley on a ski trip, and then we went to a Bills-Browns game after it, and we were all wearing like our snow gear from the day before, from like the snowboarding and skiing trip. And there's Buffalo Bills fans without their shirts on, just getting frostbite. Insane. All along the bottom of the stadium. And to me, like, if that's a fun experience for Buffalo Bills fans, fine.
Not me.
But I particularly don't think that that's a fun idea. And the other thing is, it wasn't, and we lost that game, but it wasn't an incredibly like loud or crazy environment. It's good. I think Buffalo fans tailgate hard. I think they're like one of the stronger fan bases, but like that's not for everybody, and that's hugely in the minority. And honestly, if like, I don't know, like we're just not Buffalo guys. Like it's just not the same town. It's a very different city. There's a lot in common, but like that's one example of a team going on to another open air stadium. And
that's crazy.
Honestly, I don't know if they'll regret that eventually when, again, the players are not like it's great for them with while they have Josh Allen, who's like a great cold weather quarterback, but that's not always the case.
No. So since 99, we scored 3,668 points, averaging 18.2 points per game. Opponents' points, 4,254, averaging 21.1 points a game. Our third down percentage is 36%. At home, this is all at home since 99. And our fourth down percentage, since we deal with a lot of those, is 50%. So half the time we'll be all right on fourth down. The other half we're screwed.
Kevin's good for that. Yeah, and too, if you look at the mock-ups, I think actually is what they drew it up to be. That stadium and the whole around the stadium is going to be amazing. They have a little muni lot drawn up. It's going to still be there, probably twice as better. And they have the dog pound going from bottom to top all the way up. So you have that whole thing is going to be dog pound. And they said, the sound from the dog pound will carry to the opposite end of the end zone. So when the other team's scoring on the opposite end, the dog pound noise is still going to carry with them. So that's what you can do with the dome that you can't do with an open air stadium. Also, too, the stadium itself is beautiful. If it comes out the way they drew it up, again, these are all mock-ups. Sometimes they kind of miss the mark, but it's a great thing. And
by the way, you have a guy from Tennessee, not from Cleveland, willing to
Exactly.
invest $2.6 billion
Billion.
in that area,
Billion.
I just don't know how you turn that down. There's not that many people looking to build up Cleveland from outside of Cleveland.
And
I know it will cost Cleveland some money, but in this particular plan, Haslam and his like private like equity group are going to be planning to put in $2.5 billion of the $3.5 billion that you need. So seems like a good deal.
insane. Yeah,
to me.
because you can also build. There's going to be more than just a stadium. It's going to be an entertainment multiplex, is what they call it. Around it, where it's shopping, food. There's going to be skating rinks in the winter. There's going to be entertainment outside of just football for the family throughout the whole year. The whole year is going to be something fun. And I'm 10 minutes away. I'm going to have fun. It's going to be great.
Yeah. And yes, it'll be outside the downtown.
Yeah.
And it will be outside.
It's
the
only
technical
10
city
minutes
limits
away from
by, like,
downtown, though.
yeah, it'll be technically outside the city limits, but by like a stone's throw. But it's still
even.
right.
Listen,
Yeah.
that city was given. Cleveland gave that land to Brook Park. If you guys want to bitch and moan about that, that's fine. It's going to be literally, if you walk to Brook Park Road, you are in Cleveland. You're right there at Rocky Hill
Literally,
Drive.
yeah.
The Cleveland International Hopkins Airport is right
It's
there.
right there.
I mean, the reality is, I don't think the Haslams specifically want to move the team out of downtown. I think Cleveland keeps pushing this renovation plan, which they very, very clearly don't want to do. And people keep saying, like, you need to keep the Browns downtown. Then Cleveland needs to pivot and find another site where they can build that dome, because it's not going to, the renovation plan. There is no indication to me from the Haslams or Barry or anybody that's spoken for the organization that they have any intention of doing that plan. They like the other plan. They want to do their own big building. And if you want it to be downtown, then start looking around for a site as large as the Brook Park site downtown.
The only thing is that lakefront. The lakefront where the airport is.
Yeah, Berkeley.
That's the only area, but they're not going to give that up, which is why Haslam settled in Brook Park.
So I'm going to touch base.
Cleveland is very, very like they're so like they're never looking forward. Like if Cleveland's mayor and leadership had been looking forward, they should have everybody knew a new stadium needed to be built. This stadium has been one of the
rushed
lowest ranked stadiums ever since it was built because of how it was built.
Yep.
If Cleveland people like mayor and leadership wise are not happy with them moving like to a different site, they should take that as a lesson to start looking around and pre-planning for what can be done, because they can't move Burke Lakefront Airport right now because we need an airport available for an emergency. But had they
just did
had
a bunch
the
of work to
foresight
it as well.
Yeah, had they had the foresight, they could have been looking for areas of Cleveland where there's nothing happening and looking to have that land available, and it just wasn't. So, as usual, Cleveland's kind of sitting there holding the bag government-wise, not ready for what's coming in the future, and Haslam's not doing that. He's like, this stadium lease is done in 2028. First chance we have to get out of this stadium that we don't like.
We're doing it.
And for the record, what people also just seem to ignore is I was told a dome can last between 30 to 50 years.
Not on a lakefront.
I was told this renovation
15.
can last 15 to 20. Dude, they're not putting this much money in for 15 more years. They want to own this team and pass it down to their kids forever. They want something that's going to be their spot for a long time.
Yeah, and that's the big thing that people don't realize. Like, they want it. They want it. They want it. They want it for their family. They don't want nothing. The city. They don't want the city to.
And that's what you should want.
Touch it. Yeah.
You're talking about this guy. You're talking about how people are like, oh my gosh, it's just it. People are still crippled by Art Modell moving the Browns. You know who will never move the Browns? The guy that spent $2.6 billion to build their stadium here. He will never move. If that stadium lasts 50 years, he is going to reap that investment, and the Browns will be here.
I'm going to hit some of these comments really quick. Paul Moyer, we all know Brook Park Road. Paul Moyer said, resurgence in adult entertainment. Laugh my ass off.
That's Brook Park Road. Right? Yeah, that's Brook Park Road.
I mean, all the guys are going to be walking out of the Browns game hammered, and let's go to not Lidl Lounge.
For those that don't know, I grew up in West Park. I grew up in West Park, like around like the 150th
Yep.
Most people probably know like 150th,
Cam's
Lorraine,
Corner.
like
Cam's
that's kind of a little bit east of Cam's Corner. But Cam's Corner is like the landmark, like right before Fairview. But I'm a little bit farther east in West Park, but West Park was my kind of spot, so I'm pretty familiar with that Brook Park area. I just think it's funny because I always grew up a Clevelander. I was in Cleveland city limits. Brook Park, because we'd have to drive that direction to the airport. Like I pass Brook Park all the time. I have never one time in my life living in Cleveland, in Athens, in Columbus, in San Diego. I've never one time in my life thought, oh, Brook Park is a very different place. Brook Park is just Cleveland. Like if I have friends that lived in Brook Park, they didn't like move to San Diego and were like, oh, I'm from Brook Park, Ohio. Like they're from Cleveland. They say they're from Cleveland.
Yep.
Kevin
They're
said,
not even from like Akron or somewhere where it's like, oh, it's sort of another city. It's just the Cleveland. It's not even a suburb part of Cleveland. It's like the
Cleveland.
non-suburb suburb.
It's Cleveland.
we got a couple comments. Kevin said, I'm all for the dome. It's just downtown tailgating and the march to the stadium for these tailgate spots. I'm going to miss that.
To that one door, you're going to miss marching to the one door to get in and the one door to get out. Are you going to miss that?
Jeff Geo
There's
said,
stuff
hi,
you
sexy
miss in
boys.
your life until you like have something new, and then you
Until
don't miss
you
it that much.
realize, I could go through multiple doors. I mean, I could
I had
march
this
to
car
this
that I
door.
really loved, and when I sold it, I'm like, I'm gonna miss that car so much. And then the car I bought was just better, and I'm like, I sometimes miss it, but not that much anymore.
Exactly.
Pete Barker, a guest that we've had on the show, great guy, lives, as Angel likes to say, across the
Pete.
pond. It's easy for me to say it because I'm out of the country, but I'm all for the dome. My only thing is let the fans tailgate and give them a place to do that. Otherwise,
They
rip
did.
the heart out of us. And there's
Oh
going to
yeah,
be
the
like
tailgate area looks big.
Chad said we got to make the Muni Lot 2 and the
And
pit.
Me too.
The pit.
In the mock-ups, they have
What did I
a
wanna call it?
big Muni lot area.
Oh, the new. I wanted to call it New Muni.
New
Yeah.
Muni. I'm cool with whatever, as long as they call it
Muni
Muni
2.
something.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Jeff brings up a good point. They can have real bathrooms. I mean, the bathrooms, and see, these are the things that people don't talk about. Like, do you know when they built it? Usually, when you build a stadium, you build it state of the art. Next state of the art stadium will be the Cleveland Browns if this passes. In '99, when ours was built, it wasn't state of the art. It was just crap because
nobody liked it.
It was rushed. No one liked it. It was rushed. There was nothing fancy about it. It was just the Brown. We finally gave them a team. They were crying about it because we sold their team to Baltimore. Let's just build a stadium and let the Browns fans be okay. And that was it. And we were okay with it because we wanted our team back. Now, 20, 30 years later, we're like, crap, our stadium is crap. There's nothing going on. It's horrible.
I just think the first 20 years of the like expansion Browns were an era to pretend never existed if we can. Like block it out, push it away.
Yes.
It's not the future, it's the past. And if rolling in this new era involves bringing in a new stadium and getting out of that stadium where everything bad happened, that's totally fine with me. Like there is no good memories in that stadium other than like we got our team back. But it's been rough. You know, we've had very few great memories there.
There's been plenty of
that we'll
games.
want to tell our children about.
Lamar Jackson obviously likes our facilities.
Yeah. Bathroom.
Yeah.
Comes out and wins.
Who said that? That's hilarious.
Oh man. Yeah, that's it for the night, guys. I just wanted to touch base with some stadium things before we let go.
That's our favorite topic.
It is. I mean, it's because it's crucial. It really is. It's a big vocal point that is a 50-50 shot right now, it seems, to the fans.
It's kind of
in general.
happening.
I'm starting to get to the point too. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I'm starting to get to the point too where it's like, for everybody that's like fighting it and like, no, we should do this. It feels a lot like when we got into the involvement for Deshaun Watson. It's like, guys, it's happening.
Yeah.
Like all of you that didn't like that wasn't your preference. Like it's happening though. So it is the future. It's, I can't say 100%, but it's that's where I'm putting my money. It's happening.
Yeah, me
so
too.
like, if it's not your preference, it's fine. But like, I think you'll enjoy it, and it's not worth going online and arguing about like we shouldn't do it because it's going to happen. Like
Jeff said, I'm tired of pissing into a hill and waving at the train as it passes full of like Amtrak people.
And for everybody out there, by the way, for every Cleveland tough guy, there's a long like debate that turned it into an argument between one guy, and I started cracking up because he was talking about how like, oh, we're Cleveland, like we're tough, we have to do the weather. And again, I'm thinking like we're Cleveland, like the Clevelanders are Cleveland, but the players aren't Cleveland. I'm not even Cleveland. I live in California now. What am I talking about? But
no, I mean it's a good point.
When it gets cold for you guys, yeah, you're there all week in the cold. Your skin gets used to it. You grow an extra long beard. You bundle up. But the players aren't Cleveland. And for like these fans that are like, oh, you got to be tough for Cleveland. It's like, dude, these players, we're trying to lure in free agents. We're trying to make Cleveland look as appealing as possible. You have guys like Brandon Ayuk, like, I don't really want to play there. Like, what if we have the best facilities in Berea and we have the best training staffs and we have the best stadium? Like, people will be more likely to want to play there. And the other thing is like this tough guy routine of like, whoa, you're not a real Clevelander if you don't want to be in the cold. Man, I've been listening to Clevelanders complain about the cold my entire life. None of us want to be in the cold. We're just proud of the fact that we can survive it. But I don't have any like Cleveland friends or growing up, you know, my dad was never like, I love snow shoveling the driveway like that. It was tough that he did it by himself, but he wasn't like coming in the house like, oh, I'm so glad I got to do that.
Like, I got 2 more hair on my chest doing that.
There's better ways to be a man than to purposely get frostbite on a miserable Sunday in January. And guys, newsflash, we're getting better and better. Football will extend out of December into the even colder months of January and February. Like, it's not going to be pleasant.
Especially if we get that home field, if we win the division.
Someday.
We're going to have a possible home playoff game. So you got that to look forward to. You guys want to go sit there in mid-December? No, I'm good.
No, you're not tough then.
Yeah, right, dude. Me and Amanda went to the last Cincinnati game.
She's more tougher than me. She's tougher than me then because I
was drinking double Jack and Cokes. That helped, but
I turned down the Jets game when I was there. When I was home for Christmas, I turned down the Jets game because somebody called me like, "You want to go down there and try to scalp tickets?" And I was like,
"Are you crazy?"
It's raining, and it's like it wasn't even the coldest night, but it's like it's a night game. It's pouring rain. Are we gonna go tailgate in the rain? Like that'll be pretty miserable. And then we're gonna sit in the stadium and watch, you know, this Jets game. That part will be fun, but like the tailgate wasn't gonna be as good in the rain. The game was gonna be rainy, so it's gonna be sloppy football. We ended up just watching it in the man cave of a friend of mine and literally just like had the greatest time. Like, this is so much fun. But if it were a dome, I probably would have went. I would have been like, oh, let's go. We'll throw up a tent, we'll tailgate, and then we'll go in the game.
Yeah. I mean, I got a TV in my garage, and I thought about like, Angel, you can come by. We'll order some chicken wings, watch the game in the garage. That's fun.
I didn't want to get drunk and sick, and I had to fly out like the next morning back to California. It's like I don't want to wake up the next morning like, oh god, I drank too much and I've got pneumonia.
Yeah,
it's a good way to end the trip, right?
Yeah, great way to go back to work and have to take like 3 days off. 3 days. I get back. Like, sorry, I caught COVID and everything else.
Oh boy,
Jeff, no, don't read that comment. Don't read that one.
Save that one for the Rated R show.
You all right, Chad?
This is a family show, Jeff. Family show.
Oh, that was funny. Chad just smacked his mic and thought he knocked it off.
I know. I thought I was going to go somewhere.
Oh, all right. That was good. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, you know, all the stuff. Instagram,
Threads. Twitter. We're on Threads now, too.
Oh, we're on Threads now as well. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't tell your friends, then you're really no good to us, and you're off the team.
Yeah, share the video. Yeah, we'll unsign you just like we did some other folks this week.
That's right. Yeah. If you're not with us, you're against us.
I will delete you. No, I'm kidding. I won't do that.
We need all of you.
We need all of you.
This is not fun without somebody following along.
Yes. Hit us up on YouTube, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call that. The show will be uploaded for all your hearing on your way to work in the morning tonight. I'll get that done. Jeff, we are not lies. Stop it. Yeah, we will see you guys next week. Chad's going to have another tight end. I think we're going to do a tight end talk next week about, you know, quality numbers out of
number one. Who's number one?
Yeah, because
what
there's
makes
only
a
one.
number. You know what's a really hard one to do these days is because they have so many shares. Running back will be pretty tough to decide who's like a running back one.
Nick Chubb.
I
And
think
see,
so
guys,
many
no, I'm
things
kidding.
got swirled. So many things got swirled into fantasy, and people are like, my wide receiver one is whoever got me the most fantasy points. It's like, well,
Mm.
Yeah, if you guys
that's
want to
great,
rip
but
off the fantasy league, just listen to Chad weekly with his updates on number ones and number twos.
I got the numbers. I got the real numbers. All right,
That's his favorite.
I do. I love
Oh,
numbers.
Jeff said we won't block him. That's why he said lies. I gotcha. You're right,
That's
Jeff.
true.
We will not block you.
No, we won't block you.
But yeah, thank you guys for joining us tonight, and we will see you all next week.